Defender killer.
Nice shot.
Kill streak alert.
Today I'm looking into an upcoming free-to-play shooter called Combat Champions. Let's talk about some impressions that I got and if I believe that it's a good game and therefore worth playing later down the line when it will be released, and we don't know when, at least not yet. The gameplay you're watching was recorded mainly from the first playtest, and it took place before I was able to change my graphics card, something I did just the other day. So when I was playtesting and recording Combat Champions, my PC setup was still on the low end spec of things. Combat Champions is developed by former DICE developers that has formed a studio called C77 Entertainment. The game will be published by the same, since we're only talking about a studio that has around 25 people employed at the moment. So what is Combat Champions? According to the devs themselves, it's supposed to be a fast-paced first-person shooter with some map-altering destruction while holding key points, and at the same time out-shooting the opposition. On top of that, it's all televised by Corporate Mediation Alliance, so a game show as well, if you will. Getting to that in a moment. The game mode available in the playtest is like a conquest kind of game mode, but infantry only, where you cap and hold as many objectives as possible. It is round-based also, and have these mini games or intermission games in between rounds that, for example, can be all players having just a one-shot kind of pistol trying to eliminate the enemy. And when you die, you respawn as a drone, being able to spot enemies for your teammates that are still alive, and it ends when the last enemy has fallen. If I would best describe Combat Champions for you, as others has said as well, I would say it's like playing an older Battlefield game combined with elements from the finals and power weapons that are situated on the maps that we've seen before over the years, for example in shooters such as Halo, although the weapon differs from Halo's power weapons, since you here can find, for example, a big machine gun. The gunplay in the game is pretty decent, although there are still also in the second playtest some performance issues that the developers are aware of. It could be related to the good old netcode issue, something we've seen and experienced in other shooters recently, such as X-Defiant, since I also here sometimes die around corners. I hope they're able to tweak this even further for the future. They describe the game as fast-paced, and maybe it is that to a certain extent. However, in the playtest, there wasn't always full teams, so when there was only about, let's say, 9 players in each team, it felt a bit lonely in between the points due to the large maps, at least many of them are quite large. I hope they're planning some other game modes as well, something I wished would have been available already in the latest playtest, since I do believe it's possible to play around a bit here. Maybe also using only smaller portions of these bigger maps for certain game modes for the future in order to get more variation. There are things, though, about Combat Champions that makes me wonder, thinking what kind of identity of a game they are trying to create and achieve, and therefore what kind of FPS players or audience that would be attracted to this style of an FPS. Not sure if there will be skill-based matchmaking in the game, but at least from my playtest experiences so far, it caters towards a more casual shooter experience. The choice of art style and graphics in the game points towards that as well, but this red versus blue kind of colorful soldier concept can also be something that makes some players hesitate to try out the game, especially in combination with the name Combat Champions. Looking at the game at a first glimpse only and reading Combat Champions makes at least me thinking about a mobile device kind of a game that might have been ported to PC, but it isn't. That in combination with the game show announcers, a la the finals if you will, can be a turn off for some players, which of course would be a shame since the game definitely plays like a game that has been designed for PC. And talking about the voices or announcers in the game, this is something you of course can turn off if it bothers and distracts you when playing, something I would have done already when I started to record the gameplay. Combat Champions has a very straightforward class system to choose from, which I believe is nice, although there aren't any customization options to talk about just yet. So, is it fun to play? Well, I would say sometimes. It depends actually on what map you play on, at least in my belief, if there was full teams or not, as described before, and if the performance was good or better in that particular match. Then I definitely would say yes a bit more often when playing the game, so far. Is it a good game? Well, I would say it can become a good game, but it's not there yet. It's decent, but not really much more than that in my belief. not yet. My concern, though, as described before, is the choice of design and art style in combination with being a game show kind of game, which we already have experienced in the finals, although Combat Champions plays different compared to the finals. If I was developing the game, I would consider actually to rename the game to add some more weight to it, and maybe also scrap the blue versus red soldier kind of concept and add different characters instead that can be customized in different ways, since I guess there will be some kind of monetization system in the game when it comes to a store and all that stuff. I have not gone into the developers Reddit. I don't know really when there would be another playtest, but by all means, if you're playing on PC, go over to Steam and try to get into an upcoming playtest if you're curious to find out more about Combat Champions and maybe try it out yourself. I will continue to keep an eye on this game, and hopefully they have been able to reach even further with their game the next time there's a playtest, since I do believe it might become tough to establish a game such as Combat Champions on the FPS scene. The competition is nowadays very hard. But who knows, maybe people start to find their way into this game and enjoy it. With that said, thanks a lot for watching, and I hope to see you soon again here on my channel, where I post a variety of FPS games. Cheers and later.